Yeah.
Hi, we are Andy and Claire from Heads Up Kids.
And today we are exploring how to embed emotional literacy in the reception classroom.
Heads Up Kids is a social and emotional well-being curriculum. We are a charity promoting positive mental health in primary schools. Our vision, we believe that in a classroom where children have the words to express their feelings and feel confident to do so, those children will be more resilient, more able to solve problems, they will have more empathy for others, and be better able to work collaboratively.
So you're all working with the Finding Bunny program, and the aim of this program is to build an emotional language in the classroom and develop the skills that are required for mental health right from the beginning of primary school. This session is being offered as part of a funded project and is supporting schools to embed wellbeing in reception, and parents will be attending or invited to attend a similar program. So where are we right now? We're in the midst of transition into reception. There is a big difference in children's developmental readiness for school. Some children are summer born, so they're much younger. Some children are just less ready for school. Children come from different environments at home. There might be more parental anxiety. There might be children who are the first children in their family or the third children in their family. So all of those things have an impact on children's readiness for school and the way that they settle into primary school.
So, what's going on for 4 rising 5? They're grappling with change, new demands are being made on children, they're learning to separate from caregivers, they're learning to follow instructions, adhering to boundaries, often new boundaries. There's a more formal environment. It's mentally and physically more demanding for children, and they are adjusting and growing and developing. So today we're going to think about how we can support children's well-being at this time. We're going to think about what are the things that will make a difference. And we're going to think about how we can embed well-being from the onset so that it's part of learning for both the child and the parent. When children feel safe and secure, they feel comfortable to talk and share. We're looking to create an environment where children can talk readily and freely about their feelings and are able to ask for help. We want to create class cohesion. We want to help children to see their class as a community and to develop a sense of connection for children. We can do this when we practice and talk about how we relate to each other, how we talk to each other, how we play together, how we repair our friendships, and how we think about things when they go wrong.
So what do we have to support us? So the children have their Finding Bunny program. We are offering parental information and support for home so that we're all on the same page. And we have our teacher support and training for teachers. So we want to all be working together to support positive mental health, creating this triangle, all feeding into each other and all speaking the same language. Our framework for well-being looks like this. We have at the top containment. So we're thinking about predictability, routine, and ritual. We have connection, building strong relationships between the children and building strong relationships between teacher and children so that the child begins to see the teacher as a person and as a role model. We want to think today about emotional communication, so a child's capacity to express themselves and to ask for help, and for teachers to affirm children's feelings and teachers to mirror and reflect children's behaviour in order that they can start to think about and reflect on their emotional communication. And lastly, we're thinking about building resilience, independence, and positivity. So to build resilience, we want to focus on strengths. We want to help children to think about what makes them feel good. Also today, we're going to think about the idea of acceptance and think about the importance of really talking about difference in a reception classroom. Just like adults, children feel more confident and secure when their activities are predictable, familiar, and reliable. So, when children are contained by familiar routines, they feel safer and have more capacity to take on new information and to try new things. When life's unpredictable, it feels stressful. We don't know what's going to happen. We can't predict the behavior of other people, and we don't know where we stand. So, the more we're exposed to an unpredictable environment, the more heightened our sense of threat becomes, and we become more reactive and unsettled and less able to learn and develop. Children instinctively seek boundaries, and in doing so, will often test them out. So, some children really do need to find out that the boundaries that we say are in place are real and consistent in order to feel safe. So, that might be where you see children pushing at the boundaries. So, we want to build routines and rituals. So that can be things like visual timetables, lots of consistent routines so that children know what's going to happen next. Things like rituals and songs for the beginnings and endings of activities. We want to try to minimize surprises and changes. We know that they are part of life and that sometimes there will be things that change, but we want to keep them to the minimum that we can. We want to try to create physical containment, say small, cozy spaces for particular activities, or using particular parts of the classroom or props to designate different activities to help children feel physically contained. And another thing that we often talk about when it comes to containment is acknowledging who's there and who's not there. So when we do the register at the beginning of the day, or we're talking about what's going on in class today, we might talk about someone when they're not there, talk about this one's not there because they're not well and they're going to be back tomorrow. We hope they'll be back tomorrow. And also, really importantly, welcoming that child back to the class when they return. That can give children a real confidence boost, knowing that they were missed, knowing that they were being thought about when they weren't there. And it helps children to understand that each member of the class is important and part of what makes the class a whole. So routines and rituals and habits also decrease cognitive load. So that means that actually the more we have those things as part of what happens in school, the less we're thinking about the little things. And that really does give more space to think about the big things and to learn and develop. The next thing we want to think about is connection. So feeling connected and being able to form healthy relationships are a cornerstone of positive mental health. Our classrooms are full of children and teachers with different attachment styles, and a wellbeing program can help create a safe and secure base where all children feel supported and safe. Attachment styles are really important because they affect children's well-being. So attachment styles are a way to describe how a person's early interactions with their caregivers affect their relationship later in life. Children form a template for relationships based on their early interactions and their early attachments. So, for example, the behavior of an insecurely attached child can often be the expression of anxiety and fear due to experiencing a caregiver who has been inconsistent or absent or unpredictable. We might see that in the classroom by the way that child behaves. And so what looks like difficult behavior can actually be feelings of being anxious or difficult, overwhelming feelings and an inability to regulate those emotions. The American psychologist Cozzolino said that children learn best when they feel protected and connected. The goal of attachment-based learning is to have each child move from feeling vulnerable, frightened, and unimportant to feeling protected, cared for, and valued, a state that optimizes learning. So safe and secure classrooms are vital for promoting secure attachments. And this environment then fosters strong, positive relationships where children feel safe and cared for. And it's helpful for teachers to think about the line that's in the early years foundation stage guidelines, which says that it is the interested, playful, and consistent adult that makes the biggest impact on a child's development in all areas.
So we want to also think about strengthening the connections children have with each other by supporting them with their friendships. A lot of friendship skills that children learn at this time come from the way that we role model those. So what are the things that we can do? We can support children with friendship skills, such as initiating play. Practice phrases like, let's play on the climbing frame, or would you like a turn? We can model positive relationships. We can be mindful of how we talk to peers and how we work things out with them. as we've said, children are watching and learning from us all the time. We can highlight friendship behavior. Joey just asked me if my cold is better. That's such a caring and thoughtful thing to ask. Let them know that friendships have ups and downs. Let children know that being friends doesn't always mean agreeing or getting along with others all of the time. And that sorry is an action, not just a word. And what we can also do is encourage interactive games, interactive play and fun games, because this creates a sense of belonging in the classroom and actively builds and creates connections. We also want to think about emotional communication. So when children don't have words, we see how they feel through their behavior, and they can feel frustrated and overwhelmed when they can't communicate. So being able to recognize, understand, and express your own emotions as well as those as others is referred to as emotional literacy, a term introduced by the psychotherapist Steiner. It describes the ability to understand what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and how to manage it. Emotional literacy also allows you to recognize how your emotions affect your behavior and decision making and helps you understand other people's emotions. So studies have found that people with high emotional literacy are less likely to develop mental health problems. And if they do, they can cope better with them. So what can we do to build emotional literacy in the classroom? We can use stories. We can explore the feelings in the characters in the stories that you're reading. We can reflect on how the stories make us feel. We can use stories to illustrate and support social learning. We can use check-ins with emotional smiley faces or emotion boards. There are different ways to start the days or activities. We can play emotion games. We can have emotion toys in our safe corner or our calm corner or our well-being corner. We can model emotional language, so we can be mindful of how we're sharing our emotional language. And we can also normalize an emotional response. So, for example, a child falls over and cuts their knees. We might say, ouch, you've fallen over and your knee's bleeding. Of course you're crying. Cry if I hurt my knee like that. And name it to tame it. We can use name it to tame it. So Lieberman and a few other psychologists have found that labeling our feelings reduces activation in the amygdala, which is our brain's alarm system that triggers the fight or flight reaction. So when we give words to our emotions, we move away from limbic reactivity by activating those parts of the brain that deal with language and meaning in the right ventral prefrontal cortex, which means we become less reactive and more mindfully aware. So we can name an emotion, and when we do that, we help a child to calm down.
So I want to think next about resilience and independence. In many countries, children that are age 4, 5 are still in a nursery school environment. So that's countries like Scandinavia, across Scandinavia, Australia, Israel, South Africa. In all of those countries, children are not in formal education until much later. They're still very much playing, learning about themselves in a very exploratory way. And interestingly, in those countries, academic outcomes by the age of 11 are the same or even better than in the UK. So we know that learning through exploration is really critical at this age. And we want children to be curious, to try new things, to feel motivated to learn. And play is really, really crucial for that. It's a time when we can get things wrong. And we can test things out. And when children experience getting it wrong in a negative way, they can start to internalize that and feel like perhaps they're not good enough, or they're inferior, or they're incapable. So that exploratory play with no judgment is really, really important, particularly at this age. There's been a really big uptake of forest school activities in the last few years in reception. And that's really positive for children because it gives them more opportunities to be outside and to explore and to use a different set of skills from those required inside the classroom. So we really want to value those opportunities that children have to have that exploratory play.
So part of building resilience and independence is supporting big feelings. So when we soothe, not solve, for example, a child is angrily banging a puzzle piece because they can't get it in to fit. We get down to a child's eye level. We speak calmly and clearly. I can see that you're feeling frustrated. Maybe we might put our arm around them. We're not going to do it for them. We're not going to put the puzzle piece in. When children learn to be independent, the more that we do this, they're not learning to be reliant on adults to fix their difficulties. This is the difference with a growth mindset. We are acknowledging difficult feelings. When we see lack of resilience, often what we're seeing is a child's inability to tolerate frustration, the frustration of not understanding something yet, of not being able to do something yet, or not getting what they want straight away. If we fix it for them or distract them, we're inadvertently contributing to this. We're making it more difficult for them next time. So what we can do is we can soothe them. We can stay with that. We can acknowledge the difficulty and support them to manage this. In doing this, we are showing children that we are not overwhelmed by our big feelings. So we can give children choices. We can communicate with parents about building skills for independence. So building positivity. We know that not all children leave school feeling good about themselves, and that at school, too many children feel good about themselves in relation to the things that they are good at, rather than the things that they love to do. So we can be mindful in reception to help children identify the things that they love and the connection between doing what they love and how they feel good. So, for example, Harry can love football and enjoy playing football, even if his coordination is not so good.
As I mentioned before, acceptance and talking about difference is really important in reception. And EYFS requirements talk about enabling children to feel special and to recognise their uniqueness. So we can do that by fostering acceptance of who we are. We can talk about difference and celebrate difference through games like the sun shines on or parachute games. And that gives a springboard to talk about difference. We can observe and comment on individual preferences and differences. So you might say, I noticed that Jack always goes to the class first, but Sam always goys to dress up. We're all different sizes. Our body shapes are different. All of those things that make us different can become something we can talk about easily and without judgment as part of children's development. We can talk about the importance of reaching out and making people feel welcome and model this and reflect back to children when they do that. So we might say, Ruby just made some space for Josh, and I noticed Josh smiled when Ruby did this. And we can challenge children's behaviour in a kind and exploratory way. So you might say, I wonder how Jack felt when that was happening. If I was Jack, I might feel a little bit sad. We can actively help children to navigate the idea that we all have different abilities and different needs. And that might mean that sometimes we're treated differently as a result. We can acknowledge that we all have something different to offer, and we can ensure that we have a voice, that we all have a voice, so that everyone gets a chance to speak and everybody has space in the classroom. Some of us find it easy to speak up, so others find it difficult. Some have loud voices, some have softer voices. So all of that can be part of our discussion and our acknowledgement of difference in the classroom. And that can really help children to develop empathy and understand each other better. And all of this highlights some of the unspoken comparisons that happen in the classroom with your children. So two things that spring to mind are reading schemes and behaviour charts. And while there's lots to talk about with all of that. And you're not going to go and change all of those systems. We can think about the impact of those things on children when they start to see that they're different from each other and compare themselves to each other, and how we can manage that in the classroom and make difference something that we can talk about readily with children and something that is part of what they learn at school. We mustn't be afraid to recognize our differences. And when we feel comfortable with our differences, there's less shame.
So just to kind of summarize some of the things that we've spoken about, our tools for well-being. So we have our well-being program, our Finding Bunny program, which gives you a roadmap to actively work on well-being. We've talked about ritual, predictability, and a containing environment, acceptance and emotional language, building connections and relationships between the children, building resilience, independence, and positivity. So those are the tools that we have to use in the classroom. And within all of that, we're aiming to build class cohesion and connection for children to feel safe, secure, and seen, to deepen our relationships with each other, and for children to be able to talk and share and have the words to describe how they feel.
You can use the program again or any of the sessions or activities from the Finding Bunny program at any point during the year. So if there's something that you think would be really helpful for your class to look back on or re-explore, then you can bring back those activities. You can do the whole session or just activities from the session. And if you have any questions, then you are able to get in touch with us at the email addresses that you would have had emails from us. That's claire@headsupkids.org.uk or andy@headsupkids.org.uk. We're very happy to have any questions. And if you'd like to feed back anything to us about the webinar today, please do use your phone to use the QR code that is there, or you can use the address that is on the screen right now to feedback to us about this webinar. So we'd love to hear what you think. And if there's anything else that as a reception teacher you would like to know. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope that you enjoy running the Finding Bunny program.
Thank you. Bye-bye.